Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast. This one's another special. It is turning the tables on me. Ben Jailer is talking with me about my new role as editor of Trout Salmon. I'm going to be completely open and transparent about everything that I'm doing, why I took the role, and what my hopes are for the future of the magazine. We dwell on fly culture as well. Hope you enjoy this one, something a little bit different. Over to you, Ben.
Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent Monty from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky, the message, Fly Culture magazine is dead. Good evening, good morning, guten Tag, bienvenue. Welcome to the Fly Culture podcast. I'm your guest host for today and avoider of all things fuzzy, Ben Jailer. Now, we can all recall exactly where we were and what we were doing whenever one of those earth-shattering events in history occur. For me, it was parking up at my daughter's football club and realising I hadn't bought any cash to get a cup of coffee when I received the following WhatsApp message. Hi, pal, can you give me a shout when you get a sec? Pete Tyjas, you naughty, naughty man. What was it that you had gone and done?
Well, I think most of the people may know by now, but if they don't, there's been some changes. And the changes were that Emma and I were walking down to the river, and I got a phone call from Selena at Time Well Spent. And she said, Trout and Salmon, do you fancy editing it? Now, that was it was a shock from the blue. It really was. I wasn't expecting anything along those sorts of lines. I wondered if they were going to ask me about how fly culture was going, how the magazine industry was looking, those sorts of things. And I said, I'm going to have to think about it for a week or two. Let me know. She said, well, I need to know relatively quickly because Andrew Flitcroft, the then current editor, suggested myself, and I was the only person in the frame at the time. So we had some conversations, and for me, the challenge of taking this role on, this great ship that has sailed the fly fishing sea for 70 odd years now, and a chance to put my mark on it, try and do something with it, perhaps take it in a slightly different direction, was too much not to take really, really seriously. It was serious enough that I had to do it. It came at a cost, like you say in the introduction, that I had to think about fly culture, and I can't, as I've said on a post somewhere else, with the energy that I have, the boundless enthusiasm that I can't do two things at once. And I'm going to be, on this interview, I'm going to be as open and as transparent as I possibly can. And I think my view for the independent magazine market in the next 2 to 3 years is probably going to be a challenging one. And that's led by paper costs. I don't see paper costs coming down right now. Postage costs don't help. And fly culture was priced at £9, which I thought was fair value. Now, we could have put the price up a little bit, but if we'd have done that, I think going through £10 would have been, for me at least, a little bit too much to ask of people. And I've kept the price exactly the same for 7 years, but I think that would have been a little bit too much. I could have perhaps looked at adverts, but that would have been a really difficult thing to do, I think, because I'd have felt just a little bit constrained if I was doing that. And we've been able to explore things that possibly will be a little bit more challenging for me to do at Trout Salmon, but I could do it there. And I think if advertising, we might lose the true ethos of what fly culture is all about. People say sort of, punk rock, etc., those sorts of things. And I wouldn't want to lose that at any cost. So the autumn edition is the last one. with much sadness. And I recorded something that I put out on social media that I was pretty much in tears when I did it, because that magazine has been a huge part of my life for many reasons. And I've met so many good people. I know we go back way beyond that, but people I've been able to work with John, particularly Adrian, and of course Emma, my wife, has been an absolute joy. I've loved every single second of it. But being the person that I am, if somebody says there's a chance to have a go, then I just can't help myself. And I really want to be able to try and give readers a little bit of fly culture. So people who know fly culture will know what that's about. You'll see that in the pages of Trout and Salmon from the contributors, but also respect the tradition as well. So there'll be some of that, but you'll see it start to shift away. My first issue's about to come out, so I'm already starting to think about how that's going to be received at the moment. But I'm really happy with how it's looking, how it's feeling, and I'm really enjoying it, mate.
That's really cool because, I guess with fly culture and cost, there was always the option of, taking the Cadbury's chocolate route. Instead of putting the price up, just make it smaller each year. And so you would have ended up like, something really tiny, but I don't think that would be good for our aged readers. Pete, you've kind of spoken, really kind of open and honestly with it, but that must have been a real kind of wrench for you to close fly culture. Can I just give you sort of three options and pick which one you think most reflects how you felt with the closing of fly culture? So I know you're a West Ham fan. So option A, was it like Rio Ferdinand leaving West Ham and joining Man United? Option B, was it like Michael Corleone having to kill Fredo while he was fishing on the lake in Godfather 2? Or C, was it like Elliot knowing that he has to say goodbye to E.T., even though it will rip his heart in two, but he knows that there will always be a special place, that special bond between him and E.T., so he lets him go. So out of A, B, and C, what do you think? What do you think was the closest?
Well, let's go into football first, because Rio Ferdinand, I'm probably going to get lynched for this, but I was kind of happy for him. He was a good footballer. And I'm the same with Declan Rice when he went to Arsenal. I was really pleased
he's
for
lovely,
him.
yeah.
And he's just such a good man. And of course, you're an Arsenal fan. But I was really happy for him. And I think his heart will always be in one place. But I think really it's the softy one, but it's answer C, that it will always be with me. And, I'm talking to you now and I can see a copy of it to my side here. I'm sitting where so many of the fly cultures, well, all of them were put together, and it'll always be there. And it's one of those things, people often talked about fly culture along the lines of Waterlog, a much loved magazine that was around a few years. And I hope people will think the same about fly culture, that what it did was make a splash for the 7 years it was there. People enjoyed it. But more importantly, we built community. And I've met so many good people, I've made so many friends. And I think one of the attractions of taking the job as well is that I'd really, really like to do that with a bigger scale. And I think that's part of the attraction as well. So for me, it always extends beyond the fish, beyond the fishing. It's about the people that's really important to me.
Yeah, I just think you sort of hit that nail on the head when as well as producing just such a kind of standout magazine, showcasing, writers from all over the world, great photography. It was that community thing, because I think of, so many cool people I've met through engaging with fly culture. So yeah, that for you, that's definitely something you see as kind of continuing, and it's a I guess it's going to be a sort of two-way street for you, isn't it? Because you would have your vision as to what you want to do with Trout and Salmon, but reaching out to people, interacting, taking stuff on board. Is that how you sort of see it kind of moving forward?
Absolutely. And I want to really continue what I was doing. So there's so many people that we have broken as writers, and I want to continue doing that. I think everyone they might not have a book in them, but they might have an article. And I want, like fly culture, I want Trout and Salmon to resonate with people so that they say, that person who's written that's just like me. That's really important. And I think if we can get that across to people, they'll want to be involved with it. They'll get the opportunity, if they want to try and write something. And it would be really, really cool to be able to publish it too for them.
So I think just to kind of, this isn't the first time you've had to make a decision like this, because I think when we first met, you were running very successfully Eat Sleep Fish is the kind of online blog, tens of thousands of subscribers to that. And I think we kind of met at the point that you were closing that and moving on to Fly Culture. So do you sort of see parallels between your decision to move on from Fly Culture to Trout and Salmon with your decision to move on from one sort of highly successful platform to try something new? Do you sort of see parallels there?
I think there is parallels. It's probably the conscious or subconscious. That's how I am. And I just love a challenge. I love the opportunity to try something and see if I can make it work. I think that's probably what it is. And like I say, I come back to subconscious again because it kind of felt perhaps a little way what I was saying about fly culture, that I can see there's possibly challenges ahead. So that was sort of kind of in my mind as well from that point of view, that where is this going to be in 3-4 years' time? And I'm always thinking, how can I make it better? How can I make it better? How can I make it different? And there were some things that we possibly could have done, but I can do these more easily now with Trout and Salmon because they're sort of kind of covering those things as well. So to be able to educate and inform people is important to me, be it on a fishing tips basis, conservation, those sorts of things as well, which conservation we've done a fair bit in fly culture anyway with, but help them become better anglers and not spoon feeding it to people, but so that they read something and take something from it that makes them think a little bit more when they go out on the water, wherever that may be, and then put that to use and think, yeah, I remember reading about that. And I really hope I can do that with Trout and Salmon. But yes, I think there was probably I think it is very much the person that I am, that I just like to. I love challenges. I just love the idea of seeing if you can make something work or not.
Okay. So you said you've already designed the first issue because it's going to be out. Is it out next week?
It's going to be out. I think it gets to subscribers on Monday. So by the time this is out, it may start appearing in the shop. So we'll see. Yeah.
Do you want to just talk us through the process of how putting together that issue of Trout and Salmon kind of differed from how you would have put together fly culture?
It is. I think the difference is that it's part of a team, really. And I work really closely with Richard Baker, who is absolutely outstanding, sub-editor. And so that process, and I've really enjoyed the collaborative process with him, actually. But parts of it are kind of similar. Parts of it, we're using Adobe InDesign. I'm mocking up articles because the hardest thing for me is when I was putting fly culture together, it was very much on my own. So I could see everything because I put the magazine together. Here we have a plan of 115, 116 pages. These articles are going to go here, but I'm very much a visual person. So being able to see how it was going to come together before it was going on to be designed by Mark, who is a fabulous designer too, just like John, that I needed to be able to see what it looked like so I can visualize it in my mind. So I would what I've been doing is mocking up the articles as a PDF so that I can see them roughly how they're going to look. And then the guys sprinkle their magic on it and make it look hopefully really cool and hopefully that people enjoy reading it too.
So, Peter, I'm going to put on my best Alan Partridge voice. Is it an evolution or a revolution in
From
terms of
my
your
point of
impact?
view, I think it's a bit of everything. A bit of everything. Yeah, I think it is that. I think Richard's really bought into it as well. He's really excited about where we are, how we're looking, the feel of it as well. And it will be a little different. There will be some of the regular stuff in there that I know is incredibly popular, but I want it to feel a little bit different as well. And Andrew's had his hand on the tiller for a number of years, and it would have been foolish for me to jump in and take the tiller off him and carry on as normal. That could have been an easy option to do that. I don't think that would have been the right option either, and not for me. That wouldn't work for me. They'd have hired the wrong person if they were going to do that. And I've got to say that Selena has been hugely supportive of things and has been flexible. And I sent her a message when the first one went to press and said, "Look, thanks for your flexibility. Thank you for backing me." And so this first one isn't going to look radically different. It is going to feel different and it will look different. But I think the next one will be even more of my magazine. There's a couple of legacy pieces that will finish off of a series of articles. So we've put those in, but you'll get a sense of that. And there's a lot of new writers in there as well. Some, if you're a fly culture reader, you'll know them anyway. So you'll know those people as well. So there's a bit of a clue in evolution, I guess, Ben, in some respects as well. And you'll continue to see that. And I think my plan is really not to have a formula. So the plan is to continually revolve contributors. So what I've been doing is building up a database of articles that Richard and I, how about this one? How about that one? How does that fit? I've said it before, and it may well have been on the podcast we did previously, Ben, that is kind of like being a DJ, that you're thinking about the flow and the set, as it were. So you start off with something, take it down a bit, you might bring it up, those sorts of things that I think very carefully about the rhythm and how it'll feel and how everything's tied together. So I feel fortunate that I'm in a position that I can pull stuff out and slide other stuff in to make that rhythm. And of course, keep the balance. It's called Trout and Salmon, of course. So there's salmon fishing in there. There's trout fishing. I've written something about in the February edition about sea trouting. We're going to have pike. We're going to have carp. Because of how the climate looks now, we've got to look at these other things as well. We can't, in summertime, the rivers here, you've seen down here, are incredibly low. They're incredibly warm. We're not able to fish. And so here's the evolution again, that I think as anglers, we're evolving a little bit with the climate too. But, our feet are very firmly mine certainly are in the trout and the salmon camp, because they're the two things I enjoy doing most.
And is that a thrill for you as well, actually being able to contribute more to this magazine and write articles and kind of have more than a voice? Because you're always modest, weren't you? You didn't want to be a kind of publisher contributor with fly culture.
Yeah, that's part of my deal, that I've got to write something. I'd prefer not, is the honest answer. Yeah, I like I like magazines shouting about other people, but I've enjoyed it, I have to say. So I've written about grayling in the one that's coming out, and I've written about sea trout, as I just said, in the next one. I'm going to think about the next one. I've done a casting piece as well. So there's all sorts of stuff, and I can go down avenues that I may not have gone down before, which is kind of interesting for me to do that as well. So that tuition part of it, and having been a guide, having been a casting instructor, those sorts of things are kind of interesting for me to be able to talk about. I did a rod review for the newsletter this morning, so that'll go out of a rod that I've been using over this autumn, really, that I've enjoyed. So it's fun to be able to do that. And my socials, if people look at those, that's the frustrated writer probably coming out there, and I've got a little bit more room to actually do that. So it's kind of fun to do that as well. Would I have wanted to do it? Probably not, because I want it to be about everyone else. Do I mind doing it? Not really. And I can find something to write about always, because I'm fortunate that, I get to go fishing a little bit.
And I guess moving from a kind of quarterly magazine, 4 issues a year to 12 issues as well. I mean, in some ways, you could sort of see that being quite challenging, but it's giving more opportunities to more writers, more different voices, tackling different. So I guess, knowing you, Pete, that must have been kind of quite attractive proposition for you as well.
Absolutely, it is. And it's 13 issues. So the way I've reconciled it is I'm only doing 9 more than I normally do. So that's the way I've reconciled that. I think it's all about preparation. I think that's the secret. That's, the conversations Richard and I have continually been having. We've got all of the articles. Let's see how far ahead we can get with this, so that it's not that you're chasing your tail. And I think if you're prepared, then it doesn't become a difficult thing to do. And what I think we're working on we're working on the February edition that'll be out in January. We're nearly there with it. So that's in really, really good shape. I believe we're ahead of schedule, but of course we're on a tighter time limit with this one because of Christmas. So we've got to get that to print relatively quickly, but we're in really, really good shape with that. So that makes it really easy. And I think it is just being prepared and being calm with it. And I think we are. So yeah, it's not been the challenge I thought. And I'm sort of, when I wake up in the morning, I'm kind of thinking, well, what about this? What about that? I've got to do this. And I'm kind of really enjoying the intellectual challenge of doing this, whilst the hardest thing for me is always technology. And I had the in-house guy. He actually got access to my computer because I was so utterly useless putting something on that he talked me through it, and I could think what if I could read his mind, I could imagine the words that he was probably saying. But he was fantastic with it. And, all I want to do is content. I care about the readers, I care about the contributors. And then we've got the commercial side of it that I'm learning about. But I just want to put a great magazine out for people.
And I guess, is that something new you've had to kind of deal with and learn about in terms of sort of having a magazine which has advertising in it? Is that something that's been of interest to you?
It has. It's been different, and I don't feel constrained by it, which is great from that point of view. It hasn't got in the way of things for me either. So I kind of like that. I really like the advertising team, Karen and Ben too. They're really good people. And let's face it, how many magazines are not run by advertising? That's what makes a magazine run. So I've got to accept that. That was, when I took the job, I understood that fully. And it's not been the issue I thought it would be. And the ratio of adverts to content isn't as high as people probably think they might be as well. So, it's really not been that big a deal for me from that point of view. The nice thing as well, and what I'm going to try and do as well, a little bit of an exclusive, is get the manufacturers directly in front of the reader. Let's cut out the BS so that they can actually sit there and say, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it, and work from there. That's the plan anyway. So let's be, transparent about absolutely everything. You may have heard the clanking as well. That's Ben pouring a whiskey in a water.
God, we had a whiskey night in the village on Friday, which I was still recovering from. I just can't do that anymore at my age. But this is medicinal, because I find if I'm talking in a podcast, a weak whiskey is really good to stop your throat drying up, honestly. But yeah, I might start getting a bit sweary maybe in about 10 minutes. So yeah, beware. Well, Yeah, so that is all good. What about in terms of building a community, Pete? Will you be still doing a lot on socials? Will you be kind of organising events and get-togethers, things like that?
Absolutely. We've got 11th of December. We're at Farlow's. Beer and pizza. Me. I'm going to be talking certainly with Paul Proctor's coming along. Tim Pottage is coming along. We're going to talk about some urban fishing and some of the stuff that he's been doing. Like I say, beer, pizza, relaxed do, should be fun. So that's going to be the first one. We put together, this was pre Trout and Salmon. This was going to be a fly culture thing. So it's been easily transferable. My old stomping ground at the Fox and Hounds, we're having a weekend there as well. And that's going to be really good fun. We got some great people coming down for that I'll be releasing details of in due course. But that'll be about fly tying. There'll be some fishing tips. There'll be films. There may even be some music. There's food. You can stay there. You can buy day tickets, come in, which covers your cost of all these food and bits and pieces like that as well. And I think I'd love to try and develop that a little bit more. I'm going to be up at Malin and Green at some stage as well in Derbyshire. So I love it up there. I love the people there as well. And we'll do something up there. So from that point of view, it's business as normal. The socials as well, same as they ever are. I just quite enjoy doing them, but I always just do them when I've got something to say. If I haven't, I don't do it for the sake of it. Just, if I've been fishing, if I've seen something, if something cool's happened, then I might write something about it. But I don't feel a slave to it. Of course, I'm probably going to bore people to death when my first issue comes out, but it won't be too much. And yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it at the moment as well.
And you working remotely from Tyjas Towers, I take it?
Absolutely. Everything's from there. So it's really, really easy. Yeah, I don't have to go anywhere. So I can come down in my jimmies, get going, and go from there, basically. But that's the plan. So, yeah, that's been really, really straightforward, really, really simple. The system's really easy to work. I can work it, so it must be. And it's just getting used to, I think it's a routine, really, getting used to that. But it doesn't appear to have cut into my fishing time too much as well. So I'm pleased about that. I went and fished with Paul Proctor last week, I think it was. I was fishing the Froome the week before that. And I think I can nick, that's really important to me. And I actually said in my interview, look, fishing's really important to me, that I need to be able to go. And so far, it seems to be okay. Oh, and I've just been out in Denmark as well. So
very nice.
back in that, yeah. So I was seeing my good friend Ray, and we were sea trouting out there. So that's been fine. Am I behind schedule? No, I'm ahead of it. So yeah, I think it's absolutely fine.
Okay. What about in terms of we talked about sort of almost recreating that sort of fly culture community. Do you sort of see bringing in maybe kind of sort of younger readers, younger fly fishers, bringing that new blood in? Do you sort of see that as part of your remit as well?
100%. I think there are people who have not been engaged with the magazine on any level. There are people who have been engaged by the magazine and are not reading it. So I would like to bring those in. I've got younger contributors coming in as well. Some of them new, some of them haven't written before. Speak knowledgeably, write knowledgeably. So I think there is room to grow that. I think a little bit more still water in there as well. I'm going to look at that as well, because I think the much missed trout fishermen, I think there's room for a little bit of that too. So what I want to try and do is give that good mix to perhaps people who haven't considered reading the magazine before. And for those who have, they might look at it through a slightly different lens now as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I've got to admit that Trout Salmon was the only reason I used to go to WH Smith's for. So I'm really looking forward to making my regular trip to W.O. Smith's at Cribbs Causeway and picking up my first Pete Tyjas official version of Trout Salmon. Is it too early? Could you give us a little sneaky peek of who might be appearing in that first issue and what kind of features you're covering?
We got Dave Smith writing about a river that means a hell of a lot to him. Gareth Lewis is talking about a fly pattern that has been good for him. I'm trying to remember because I'm working ahead now. Me talking about grayling fishing. Paul Proctor is talking about some good technical stuff, actually, that's really, really interesting. Rob Hardy is at a small still water further up country as well. So there's a lovely balance. There's salmon stuff. Alistair Blundell, who's written for us in Fly Culture, is kicking off with a great piece on salmon fishing. It's a very it'll hit you between the eyes type piece of writing. It's a really lovely piece of writing about salmon fishing. So I think we're getting that balance. And I'm very wary of that because it is called trout and salmon. So I want to make sure that there is salmon in there. And I think we've got at least 3 pieces in the February edition for salmon as well, at least 3. So I'm wary of that and want to keep that nice ratio that there's something for everybody. And hopefully they're going to enjoy reading all of it.
Absolutely. I've got to admit, from my own, petty, selfish perspective, I think the demise of fly culture, not only is it going to leave like a rectangular space on my coffee table every 3 months, so I'm going to have nothing to do on my socials, but also Fly Culture was the only magazine that allowed me to use the phrase see you next Tuesday. In fact, twice in one article, but we were talking about Piers Morgan and Calvin McKenzie, so I thought it was appropriate. So it's like with any loss, isn't it? Something pops into your head and then you say, oh, it's not there anymore. And, I've been on holiday, did a bit of a road trip up to Scotland, and I thought of an idea for an article, and it did feature the phrase see you next Tuesday. And I thought, yeah, I'll send that to Fly. Oh no, I can't now. And I was a bit sad. But generally, how was the reaction to Fly Culture closing? Because I guess with anything, we're big fans of horror movie franchises and box sets. There's the law of diminishing returns, isn't there? Because there's very few series that can carry on and maintain that quantity, year after year. And I think maybe talking about The Sopranos or Mad Men or something like that. What was the kind of general reaction to Fly Culture closing like that? Was it, wistful or was there sort of feeling a loss among the fly fishing community?
I think there was. Emma's been, I should say actually, that if you are a subscriber to Fly Culture, you should have got an email from Emma with a offer for trout and salmon as well. We'll also be refunding you. So we're working through that. So if you've got 1 issue left, we'll pay you the £9 back. If you've got 2, it'll be 18. It's going to take time. So please, please, please bear with us, but you will not be out of pocket. So I believe that is the correct way to go about doing things. But moving it on, when you were saying about some of those things, I was thinking of 40 Towers. And it may be that I hope I'm not comparing Fly Culture to 40 Towers, perhaps in some respects. But to me, it's fondly remembered. Was that because I think it was only 2 series or something? It wasn't very long. And it may be relative. It's Trout Salmon's been around 10 times as long. And Fly Culture might be remembered in that nice way. The outpouring we were surprised at, and how people spoke so fondly of it, was extremely kind and very moving as well. And there's part of you think, oh, but I know this is the right move for me. I think it's the right move for Fly Culture long term. And I think it's the right move, I'm hoping, for the fishing community, that we can really engage them and make them want to be part of what we're doing. That's really important to me, to be able to do that. And it was being able to do it to a bigger audience was attractive as well. So to continue, I want to help people, be it writers, be it the tackle industry. I want to help them. I know how small and tiny our little industry is. Let's try and help. Let's try and help writers. Let's try and help people. So, and there's more plans. I pitched an idea to the advertising people the other day to help people as well. So we're working on all sorts of stuff. I want to be flexible. I want to be fluid and be able to listen. And I'll listen to what people say to me as well.
So obviously old school. Are you still going to have the letters page in Trout Salmon where people can write in?
We are. I know, because that's one of the things. Apparently, it's hugely popular, and I've even started replying to some of them as well.
Okay. So what other ways can people reach out to you with any kind of messages or feedback or ideas or suggestion?
I think they can do it via socials. I'm out there on socials, on Facebook, Instagram, those sorts of stuff. You can email me. You can go through the website. If you've bought a copy of the magazine, I think my email address is in there. So you can drop me a line. This is how I want it to be looking ahead, that apparently there is a prize for the, you send your picture in of your fish and you get a cap, and there's been a delay because the manufacturer is delayed. So instead of emailing, I've been phoning people up and just saying, look, I'm really sorry. My name's Pete. I haven't said what I do there. Some people have recognized my name. And just saying, look, I'm really sorry, this is a bit delayed. Don't worry, it's coming to you. But if it doesn't come very, very soon, I'll sort something else out for you. And that's how I want to be with this. I want to be interacting with the end reader really closely. And they can tell me. And, I was on the salmon fishing forum, and there was talk about me taking this job. And it was very kind. But people mentioned to me about a few of the things. One of the things was the content section, and somebody said it was hard to navigate. So I've changed it. It's easy to navigate now. And it was funny that when I did this, the chap, and apologies if you are listening, but he wrote it. So I messaged him privately and said, oh, I just read your thing. I agree with what you said about the content section. I'll change it. And he said, quickly post on the thread, the editor's here. And I had to say to him, I am the editor. So being able to interact with people this way is something that I'm really keen. And I know there's going to be people who are not going to perhaps like the direction as much. It's not going to be radically different. It's not going to be. You can't make a magazine look completely different. But what I want it to be is something that's a little bit different now, just a little bit different, but engages people and engages the reader. I don't want it to be a 10 or 15-minute read. I want it to be a half hour, 40 minutes, perhaps even longer read, or one that people put down, pick up again, and go from there. That's what's really important to me. I've written in my first editorial, here's a scoop for you: content, content, content. That's what it's all about for me. I want to give you as much bloody content as I can.
The 3 C's.
You bet.
And not see you next Tuesday. Among them. That's good. What about historically your relationship with trout and salmon? Is that something you kind of read in your younger days as you were sort of feeling your way into the fly fishing scene?
I don't think there's many people who haven't read it over the years. And yes, I subscribed. I was a reader. I'd go to Smith's. I know that Smith's at Cribs as well that you're talking about. And so I've read it. I think it's always been in the fabric of UK fly fishing and a little bit beyond, from what I'm learning as well. So it's always been there. I've contributed to it. I've written articles for it over the years. I did bump into somebody. I wrote a piece years back about casting into the wind. And I was walking along the River Tour and somebody was fishing, and I said, oh, how are you getting on? And there was a bit of a downstream wind. He said, I'm struggling a little bit. But I really enjoyed your article in Trout and Salmon about dealing with the wind. And I smiled and wished him luck and walked away thinking perhaps you should have read it as well, because it might have helped a little bit with your casting. That was exactly the situation I was trying to help you with the downstream wind. But he enjoyed it, and that's the important thing to me. So that was good. But perhaps he went back and read it again, and the next day it was a little bit easier for him. But yeah, so I've done it on all angles, and it's always proud. I'm going to be incredibly proud walking to the newsagent and seeing my name in there for something that I used to walk in and pick up and buy.
Yeah, that's a special moment because I guess if like nice as it was, the mail order thing. I don't think you can beat that. But you just walk into a shop and there's something you've produced that's on a shelf. Yeah, that's a very, very special feeling.
It is absolutely, and I'm not going to. That's the one thing about fly culture is that for people, what we did to keep our margin was that Emma and I did just about everything. John did the amazing design, but then Emma and I would do just about everything else from the socials. When the magazine was delivered, we'd have to unpack it out of all of the boxes. Then we'd have to pack it into envelopes. We'd quiz each other. We'd say a random name, and we might sometimes know their address, not in a weird way. Not I know where you live, but we knew their address because I could remember it over this. So many people stayed with us through the longevity of the magazine, but we'd have to pack it. Then we would have to pack it back into all the boxes. Then it would have to go out, and then there was the constant. Having to post them out as we made other sales as well throughout that cycle. And this Christmas one is really hard work because, to be honest, the postage isn't great these days. The postal service isn't great. And I would get people wanting to read, and rightly so, the magazine over Christmas. We'd send it out in plenty of time. But it just came down to the sorting offices, wherever people were, they're being overwhelmed with Christmas post. And they just sometimes wouldn't turn out for ages. And of course, people would see, and that's one thing I should say is that I've never, ever asked anyone on social media to make a post about the magazine. And it was deeply touching and moving that people would do that and post their magazine had arrived and they were looking forward to reading it. And that really meant a hell of a lot to me. So thank you to everybody who did that. It really did mean a lot to me. But what it would do was people would say, well, where's my magazine? Where's my magazine? I said, honestly, they've all gone at the same time. Everyone would go at the same time. But it would take time to filter out. And it was, our postage costs just went up horrifically. And that was going to bite into things a little bit as well. We were fine. Fly culture, I should say, funded itself. So it was fine from that point of view. Wasn't in it for money, not interested in money in the slightest. If we could help people, if we could put something out that people wanted to read, that was really, really good news for me.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to when the first issue comes out and there's going to be all those shots of Trout and Salmon sitting on a coffee table next to a cigar or a whiskey or a nice sort of latte or something like that. Yeah, that was always a good vibe when a new issue came out.
And it may well be similar with this. I hope so. I hope people get what we're trying to do. I just want, Ben, fly fishing means everything to me. And if we can enthuse people a little bit by what we're putting out, that would make me supremely happy.
And I guess in terms of, the role that Emma played, not only in putting fly culture together, I know she was integral in that, but I guess in terms of you making this decision, she would have been someone you kind of, liaised with, spoke it through, and she would give you her sage advice.
Absolutely. And she always is, every aspect of my life we share in that sense of talking things through. And we did. I think she knew I really, really wanted to take this role. It is, and I've called it my dream job, but it is, for the chance to have a go at this is a dream job for me as someone who's edited magazines for, be it digital or print, for 14 odd years now. To be able to do it in the big league with such a amazing title is too much not to be able to do. I think she knew that's what I wanted to do, and as ever, she's been so supportive of me, and that drives me on. Knowing that her support's behind me means the world to me.
Fantastic. So I guess in terms of, if someone hasn't read Trout Salmon for a number of years, I'm not looking at myself here. What would you say to someone to kind of encourage them to come back and kind of give it a go and get back on board?
I'm never going to force you to buy it. I'd like you to buy it. I think there is something worth celebrating. I think it is going to be somewhere, and it's going to be something that people want to enjoy. It reflects how we feel about fishing. My enthusiasm, my passion for our pastime will be reflected in what we publish. That's what I'm looking to do with this, to be able to share that love of fly fishing with everyone. But I'm not going to force you to buy it. I would love you to buy it, but yeah, hopefully you'll see, and it will be a little bit different.
Okay, that's all sound good. So thank you to Pete, and personally, just utter kudos to you for everything you did with fly culture. I just know you're going to smash it with Trout and Salmon, and everyone will be behind you to help you along and make sure this is a big success. Now, prior to coming on air, I believe my cat ate a raisin, which may or may not be toxic. So I'm going to have to dash and see how Snoop is doing. So in closing, I'll say thank you very much to Pete Tyjas. And I've been Ben Jailer, temporary host of the Fly Culture podcast. And as ever, all there is left to say is cue Emma.
Thanks for listening to the Fly Culture podcast, brought to you in association with the Voice of Game Angling, Trout and Salmon, where Pete is the editor.